Kauschke. Yeah, I study secondary education. It's a double degree, so a Bachelor of Secondary Education and a Bachelor of Arts. Yeah. Yeah, so I grew up in Port Pirie. I'm originally from the country. I enjoyed living there. I lived in a typical red brick housing trust home with a single parent, my father, who's Polish Australian, big family on his side, but I was an only child, so I had no brothers or sisters, so I wasn't part of that traditional family setup that you see in a lot of Aboriginal communities. Yeah, I went to the local school, and the friends that I had in primary school I've kept till now, so I've got the same friends since reception. Yeah, so that's always interesting. And I've always liked growing up there. There's always a particular sort of people. When you go up towards Port Pirie and Port Augusta, there's a different way of talking and a different way of looking at life that I find refreshing when living up here in the city. It's good to go down up there and unwind a bit. It's nice. Yeah. What inspired me? I think it was two things. First, my first real job, working in schools and working with young Indigenous students from reception to grade 5. I found working with these kids made me then look at myself and where I was going, and realising that you can make a difference in your community just by spending a few hours with somebody. I wanted to not only break the mould of what some of the stereotypes were about Aboriginal people in working in a school, but I also wanted to at least get out of that life of government benefits that my family was sort of trapped in, I suppose. And I also wanted to share that with the kids that I worked at, that's a possibility, that option's always there. So I thought the next best step, building on what I already knew, was to go to university and to gain that knowledge that then I could share with the greater community. Yeah. Challenges, there's a lot. You never, for me, I was never prepared. I was never prepared to coming to Adelaide, but I did have a strong will. So I guess the challenges for me were stepping into a place I knew nothing about, both university and just being in a city. I found the degree and the workload is different from what I was used to. So I guess the work, and then there's just learning a new way of talking to people too. There's a whole different skill set in itself on how you go about communicating with other people, and how you see yourself too. You sort of see yourself differently the moment you start pursuing a goal that's to do with education or whatever. When you do it at a university level, there's a lot about yourself that you need to reflect on throughout that degree. So the challenges were a lot of personal ones, I suppose, as opposed to the educational ones, as opposed to getting to know timetables and getting to know lesson times. It was more about yourself, getting to know yourself and what you're capable of. Yeah. Like I said before, I've worked as an Aboriginal ed worker since I was 18. I still do that job. It's changed a lot. So I worked in primary schools, not knowing a lot about what it means to help somebody through education. And now, from 18 now, I'm 25 now. So I've seen a lot change in that time. I've worked in high schools for 6 years, and I've just started at a new one. And I find that high school has a lot of opportunity there for a lot of Aboriginal students. So in my job, I don't really teach kids how to do things. I just show them how or I show them or give them opportunities, I suppose. I give them options in my job, or create them. A lot of Aboriginal students that I work with don't necessarily know what school actually means. They don't understand that education's actually a gift, and that it's not just for a certain minority of people, that it's for them too. It's just the talent of doing this job is showing them how they can use it for themselves, showing somebody how education is your own, you can make it your own. So that's the first part. So you got to build that relationship with a student, and then that trust that comes from that, and then using that trust to show them ways of pushing themselves, I guess. The same way I did for myself. The difference was I didn't have somebody there in that way. So I just want to obviously do the best I can, and go that distance with any student that wants to achieve in whatever way, whether that be getting a uni degree, or just going out and having a family and owning a house. All those things matter. I just think that my job's basically about keeping them in school and making sure they know why they're there, that it's not a routine, that you're there for a reason. Yeah, the benefits, there's quite a lot actually. You can look at it from a social side. You meet a lot of different people with a lot of different views on the same subject of education. So it's refreshing to meet people who are doing the same degree as me, but are using it for different reasons, who are looking at it as a way of gaining more knowledge. I like the idea that you can all study the same topic, but once you finish, you can go out into the world and use it in different ways. I find the fact that in an education degree, a lot of the stuff you can learn, you can put into practice in my job. It's nice to know that you can see it firsthand. So when I leave uni, I'll go to work, and some of the things that I get told, or some of the theory that I listen to in lectures, I can perhaps see firsthand in schools and understand, or have a greater knowledge of it, because I work alongside students. I work with them. So it's refreshing, and I don't think I've ever had an education topic or lecture that's ever been boring. I've always found it interesting because of the philosophy around ways we share education. I think that's probably the most interesting part about it, on how knowledge is shared and how it can be used for good. Yeah. I think schools need to make Aboriginal, personally, I just feel that Aboriginal education needs to be really put on the forefront. It needs to be put on the public conscious. It needs to be seen as a solution to a lot of the problems that Aboriginal communities face. I think that, in essence, education is key to Aboriginal culture. Like, I believe that we already had an education system here before Captain Cook arrived, a really good working one in a lot of ways. I just think we need to capture that again, capture the meaning of what education means to Aboriginal people and to communities, and it needs to be on the agenda for a lot of schools. I think it needs to be right there. One of the first things on the list are looking at the success rates of students and what it is that we are doing as a school to support them through it. I think that in my role, not only, it's not, I just think in a perfect school environment, we would no longer need to have people like myself working in schools, that the whole school becomes a Nunga room, and that it's a safe place to talk about Aboriginal issues out in the schoolyard or in the halls. I think that day will come, and I think we have a lot of Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people working in schools who really do want to make a difference. In saying that, it's a challenging job, and the only way that change is going to come if you're patient, and like some of the tutors say, that you may be in your education degree, you may be making small differences and you may not see that change. You may not live long enough to see that change, but it's the fact that you actually had a go that counts. And if the school has a go about it, that I work in, if they really make a go about Aboriginal education, then there's something to build on. It's about making choices, and now, I think, for Aboriginal students that will make the difference in the long run. And the more people that hear about positive outcomes in schools with Aboriginal students, I think we'll see education as being a real solution to a lot of these social problems we see in the media. I think education is a really big key to solving not so much money but knowledge. I think that's the way you could solve a lot of some of those fundamental issues that we see for Aboriginal people that they have to face every day. Yeah. I just want to keep creating positive outcomes. That's a real general term. What I do now, I suppose, is more or less try to keep kids in school. That's a real basic way of looking at it. And I think you need to think that way. I don't want to think too big. I think my education degree helps in a lot of ways because it'll give me more understanding of ways I can go about doing my job better. And it makes me critical about the way I approach problems. So I see my education degree as just as a tool that'll help me be more critical about how I proceed and how I go about things. It's a good tool to use when talking to other individuals who work in schools. I guess it's a good way of communicating with people. I don't think we look at education degrees in that way, but it's got a lot of avenues, I suppose. I don't necessarily know what I want to do with my education degree. What I do know is at the moment I do a very good job in where I am. But I guess as I get closer towards the end, I'll probably have a better idea. I don't think you should come to uni knowing how things are going to be, because you may be disappointed in that way. I think expectations need to be limited in that you just sort of go with what you're discovering and make your choices with each discovery. That's the best way to go about it. I'd say that to any uni student. So I'll just see what happens and see how I go. Yeah, it's a real possibility. I think you don't have to, it's not about where you come from so much as a lot of kids find that the reason people, really rich people, go to uni is the common stereotype. I think a lot of Aboriginal students that I work with just need to understand it's not about your social standing or anything like that. It's nothing to do. It's a level of confidence, I think. And for me, I was very unconfident in coming to uni. I didn't have any confidence, and I just came because the option was there. So I guess for any Indigenous person who wants to come to uni, I think having a go is the best way you're going to know if you want to be here or not. The doors are open for a lot of Indigenous people, and there's a lot of support and a lot of avenues and a lot of options that are available at university now that weren't necessarily there back in the day. So it's a good place to gain experience, and if you enjoy that experience, then you should stick at it. But I would just say that any Indigenous person that is thinking about university, you should definitely just come to have a taste and see what you think. Because for me personally, I've enjoyed the experience that I have here. It's made me more open-minded, and I think it's been a character building sort of process for me. It's really good. It's a healthy experience, is I guess what I'm trying to say. So perhaps breaking out of that mold of thinking that you may already have and trying something new is the best way to approach uni. Look at it as something new and exciting. and see how it goes for yourself. Yeah.